So you want to take your edits to the next level. But what makes a scene truly stand out? How can you turn any animation or video into a premium grade masterpiece so you as a video editor can stop taking those $50 projects and actually fill that bank account? By the end of this video, you'll know how to transform any idea into a premium level edit so you can finally charge premium level rates and get paid what you're worth. You see, now that I have your attention, let's start by deconstructing this hook. The intro that you just watched is actually fairly simple.
Stop the cap.
Okay, sure. There are some complex animations, but that's not what makes it shine. It looks stunning, expensive, like something that would make your wallet cry. But why? Or the better question is, how? Well, today, that's exactly what you're going to learn. You can download the assets and project file for this video in my Discord server completely free. And don't miss out, these exclusive assets should honestly be behind a paywall. With that being said, let's get started. On screen right now are the raw, unpolished scenes from the intro, before and after applying the tricks you're about to learn. This is the difference between an average and premium edit. In total, I'll be covering 5 major aspects that will give your edits that expensive feel you're aiming to achieve. First, I'm going to explain each effect and what it does so you understand how and when to use it. You will not learn anything if you skip this part. This is not a copy-paste type of tutorial, so give it your undivided attention. Alright, if you open the project file I gave you, you have the unpolished version since nothing has been applied yet. We're going to be doing it from scratch together, one step at a time. Our first effect is this animated grain texture. This is the custom texture I used for the first animation. I applied it onto this blue rectangular shape, and you can clearly see the difference. This isn't just about adding a basic noise effect to your layers. Instead, I'm going to show you a new technique to create an animated grain texture, and how you can turn it into a preset, one you can reuse repeatedly. So for this example, I'll just use a normal rectangle. First, apply the noise HLS effect. Then open up the noise menu and change it to grain. Now change the lightness to 10% and grain size to 0.5. When it comes to grain size, you can play around with this a little bit. I found 0.5 to be good though, so just keep it at that. Now alt-click the stopwatch for noise phase and write posterize time 7. Click enter and below it write random in brackets 10,000. Alright, so let me explain what this does real quick. Basically, the higher this number is, the faster the movement of the grain. So if I put this at like 25, then the animation will move insanely quick. Right now, you're not going to see anything, which is fine since we're about to fix that. I found putting this between 5 to 8 though works really well with this effect. Now add brightness and contrast. Right-click your layer, go to Layer Styles and add Inner Shadow. Using these two effects is what's going to allow us to control the visibility of our texture. So for the inner shadow, I have everything on 0% except the size. If I increase the size, you begin to see the grain, and the more I increase it, well, the more you see it. Now, I'm going to set the size to 170, something around that, and using the brightness and contrast, I will increase the visibility of the grain. Increase the contrast a little bit to sharpen the texture. You can play around with these, but I found decreasing the brightness and slightly increasing the contrast is the sweet spot. And look, here it's all about testing. Keep playing around with the value of the inner shadow, brightness and contrast to get the look you want. Additionally, another thing you can do is add a darker shadow to a specific part of the shape by increasing the distance and changing the angle. So let's say I want to make the bottom of this darker. I will change the angle to 270 and increase the distance. Now the grain texture appears more towards the bottom and fades out at the top. So yeah, just keep adjusting these settings until you get the look you want. If you need to change the speed of the animation, simply increase or decrease this value. Like I mentioned earlier, setting it to 25 makes it really fast, while setting it to 2 slows it down a lot. Now here's an important tip that I highly recommend. Hold Alt on your keyboard and click the color box at the top to turn it into a gradient. This is a super useful shortcut. If you keep holding Alt and clicking the fill color, it will keep switching. For the gradient itself, pick a main color, let's say blue. But always keep the second color fully black. The black acts as a shadow, making the texture stand out more and look better. Now, to control where the light and shadows appear, select these 2 points on the gradient and move them around. If you want the top to be brighter, move the highlight point to the top, then drag the shadow point further out. And obviously, this is going to take some trial and error, keep playing around with it until you're satisfied, but that's exactly how I got the look you saw in my first animation. For this next effect, I also used it on the rectangle and made it look digital. If you watched my last video and downloaded the preset, then skip to the timestamp shown on the screen right now. For anyone new, listen up. Let me show you how you can recreate this in just a minute. Drag these 3 effects onto your layer: Venetian blinds, turbulent displace, and drop shadow. For the Venetian blinds, change transition completion to 10% and width to 5, and the direction to 90 degrees. This is what you'll be tweaking the most when you apply this preset, Since every image or layer is going to be different, you'll often need to adjust these two values I've highlighted to get the look you want. For turbulent displace, set displacement to horizontal displacement. Change amount to 9, size to 11. Open up the Evolutions Options tab. Alt-click Random Seed, which will open up the Expressions tab, and here write time * 6. Finally, for the drop shadow, set the color to white, lower the opacity to around 35 to 40%, and increase the softness to about 370. To finish it off, if you are going to use this effect, make sure to combine it with Deep Glow, otherwise it won't really look as good. Now on the screen, I'm in the original project file, so the one for my intro, and here you can just see the exact settings I have. Next up is Turbulent Displace, which we literally just used for the previous one. This is mainly used to create that wiggle animation. I didn't use it in the intro aside from the holographic effect, but I did use it in the Discord UI animation. And to be honest, I don't want to leave out anything in this video since I know not everyone watching this is advanced, but if you already know, then feel free to skip to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those curious, here's how you can quickly recreate it. First, create a new adjustment layer. Apply the Turbulent Displace effect. Lower the size and amount to a small value. Somewhere between 5 to 10 works well, but you can adjust it based on what looks best for you. Open the effect settings, hold Alt on your keyboard, and click the stopwatch for Random Seed. This will open the Expressions tab. Type in time * 5. And just like the animated grain we talked about earlier, the higher the number, the faster the wiggle. I kept it at 5 because I didn't want the movement to be too chaotic. And that's it. Now you've got a clean, subtle wiggle effect. Next up is Posterize Time, which we used in the first one, the animated grain. So it's really important I mention it. This is really good for adding a laggy feel to an animation, making it slower. In the intro of this video, I used it in the last scene with our phone animation, that custom Twitter DM one, to lower the frame rate and create that slow, laggy feel. So pretty much I created an adjustment layer, simply applied the effect, and changed it to 30 frames because I didn't want it to be super laggy. This way the animation looks more stylized and intentional. Now this next effect is incredibly useful, and this one is probably the longest of the tutorial. This allows for plenty of creativity, and it's primarily used to craft custom shadows and lighting. It's called the Fast Box Blur, and this is far better than a regular drop shadow or CC vignette. Let me show you what I mean. Say I want a black shadow coming from the bottom of our screen. Then all I have to do is create a shape layer, in this case a rectangle, and make it long enough to cover the entire composition. Now apply the Fast Box Blur and increase the first value. Then I just need to move the shape towards the bottom and we get something like this. You have full control. You can always keep playing with the value to get a slightly different look. Now depending on the shape you want to create, it will be different, so you can really do whatever you want. You can make circles, custom shapes, and add any type of glow or shadow. If I change the color to pink, well, now we have a pink glow at the bottom. Now here's how I used it in our scenes. For the bank balance animation, so scene number 5, the 5th animation, I used it to create a shadow at the bottom. Your version doesn't have this, and you can clearly see it doesn't look good at all. So this shadow here separates this animation from the next one. But not only that, it visually enhances the look of this entire scene. It removes distraction and makes sure the viewer focuses on the most important part. So even if I wasn't transitioning to a different animation, I would use this shadow. I also used the same effect to create the cyan glow at the top. As you can see, I created a large rectangle with a cyan color and put the blur radius to 700 to create this nice blue glow. Furthermore, for the Twitter, our DM scene, I used the same technique to create a darker shadow at the bottom. This makes whatever is in the top middle of the screen stand out more. It's basically the rule of thirds, which you've probably heard of. Your eyes are naturally focused on where this yellow line is. By adding this shadow, you're guiding the viewer's attention. So this effect is crucial for removing distractions and making any scene feel more realistic. Once again, you can see the difference without it. And here's something you might have not noticed. The very first animation actually has shadows around the frame. I'm not talking about the CC vignette or the dark spots on the actual frame. I'm talking about the ones under it. If I zoom in here, you can see it. Now, instead of letting the shadows spread everywhere, I used a masking technique to keep them inside this frame only. Right now, you're looking at my original After Effects project. And down here, you can see that I have shadow on each side. Left, right, top, and bottom. To do this, I first created a mask area. Let me show you what I mean. If I reveal it here, you can see this white shape that covers everything inside this box. Then I used a track matte to link the shadows to this shape. So I grabbed this pick-whip tool and track matted the shadows to the shape that I created, so they only appear inside this frame. If I remove the track matte, like I'm about to do right now, the shadows will spread over the whole scene, which isn't what I wanted. The goal was to make it look like the frame had a subtle shadow affecting the elements underneath it. And once again, I used Fast Box Blur to achieve this. Now you might be thinking, Cool, Fastbox Blur is for shadows, that's easy. But we're not done with this effect just yet. You can do more. In fact, I used it again to create this realistic PayPal notification shape. If you watched my last video where I showed you how to make a reflective glass style shape, the skills you learned there will come in handy here. So here's what I did. First, I wanted to add some color to match the look of a PayPal notification. So I applied the 4-color gradient and tweaked the colors until it looked as real as possible. I actually used my phone as a reference while creating this, since I get PayPal notifications and wanted to replicate the exact style. Once I had the colors right, I added a fast box blur, checked this box to turn the shape into an adjustment layer, and fine-tuned the settings to get this final look. Next up on our list is Lumetri color and hue and saturation. Let me quickly cover the main settings you'll need to know. Saturation just increases the color intensity, making the image look brighter and more alive. Exposure is just simply for adding light to the darker scenes, or over basically the entire actual picture. And then for shadows, lowering this makes the darker areas even darker, which helps fix lighting issues and makes scenes feel more realistic. And the contrast increases the difference between the lighter areas and then the darker areas, making the image look more defined and less flat. So what you're seeing right now is just I grabbed a random image from Google to use as an example, and this is the before and after, and all I did is tweak these 4 basic settings I just explained to you. And as you can see, it makes a huge difference. Now that we got the basics out of the way, let me show you how I use this in the intro animations. First, 4D background, which I downloaded from Vecteezy. It's not free, but I'll leave the link in the description. I applied the hue and saturation effect, checked the colorize box, and tweaked it until I got a dark blue color, which was the look I was going for. The truth is, you're rarely gonna find the exact background you need. Almost every background you've seen me use is something I've edited myself and saved for future projects. In fact, I did use a customized background for the first animation, the game one, and I'm gonna break that down later. And finally, I just reduced the opacity to blend it in smoothly. The final effect I'll be showcasing in After Effects are these ultra-realistic scan lines, an element you might not have even noticed in the first animation, and that's exactly why they're such a powerful detail. Right now I have my original file open, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see the difference. I've added these scan lines to create a more distorted aesthetic, enhancing the retro look of the scene. Here's how it looks without them. You might have initially thought that they were part of the font, but in reality I used a combination of simple effects to achieve this. Trust me, you don't want to skip what I'm about to show you, and don't think that this effect is just limited to this style of animation. I've used it so many times in previous projects for different reasons. First, download the texture that I left in the description. You will need it for this effect. Once you do that and are in After Effects, create a dark blue solid layer. On this layer, you want to apply Venetian blinds. Change the completion to 50% and width to 6. Now we're gonna have thinner lines. Duplicate the effect and change the direction to 90 degrees to create horizontal lines. Finally, apply the Gaussian blur effect and put it at a low value around 3 to 5. I just went in the middle and chose 4. Next, import the texture which you downloaded into our composition. This is very important. We do not want to scale it up or else it will ruin the quality of the lines. So in order to keep this the same everywhere, you want to apply the CC Reptile effect. What this does is it allows you to expand any image you have without distorting it. So increase the values until it covers your entire screen. Under tiling, make sure to change this to unfold. Next, apply the linear color key effect and change the softness to 70%. Lastly, all you need to do is change the blending mode of the texture to overlay and reduce the opacity of both layers to a low value. Somewhere under 30 is what I recommend. I usually keep it at 25%. But honestly, it's really up to you. Now to demonstrate, I'll drag this in as an example and place it beneath the layers. As you can see, the pixelated RGB texture overlays the entire image. Now, if you do want this texture to apply only to a specific image rather than affecting everything beneath it, here's what you need to do. Select both of the texture and the solid layer by holding Shift, and then using the Track Matte Pick Whip tool, I'll drag it to the image layer. And obviously, make sure that the image layer is visible or you're not going to see anything. And that's it. The texture now applies only to this particular image, leaving everything else untouched. Now this process is the exact same with the other textures I gave you, except you might not need the CC Reptile effect since these are already in 4K resolution and should cover your entire screen. You can just drag them in, copy the linear color key, change the blending mode to overlay, reduce the opacity, and then boom, you will now have a different scan texture and whatever's underneath it will be affected. In my Discord, I've given you 5 total, so make sure to join because you can also download the project files to skip redoing these steps over and over again. And for the next thing I'm going to show you, it's not really an effect, we are done with those, but once again, you're going to find it in my Discord with a full tutorial explaining how to install this in After Effects. What it does is literally in the name. It just makes anything wiggle. What makes it so great is the ability to adjust the number and speed of rotations, as well as the position, giving you complete control, making it incredibly versatile in so many different situations. I used it in scene number 3, so when there was all these videos from different creators, I applied the Wigglet to the pre-comp layer here and adjusted the settings. I didn't do too much, just some slight wiggle so it looks real with the impact and the rotations that I ended up adding. Now, with this free script that you can download, you can add a wiggling motion to anything you wish. And from there, we move on to the plugins. I'm not gonna spend too much time here. I left these two until the end since they are the most known and I assume most people watching this have heard of them. These two are the icing on the cake. Deep Glow, which makes anything look more expensive and adds that premium touch, 10 times better than the regular glow that After Effects gives you. And Chromatic Aberration 3 is also way better than using VR Chromatic Aberration already in After Effects. If you want the Deep Glow plugin, just check the description of this video and it's for Windows only, unfortunately. Okay, now really quickly, I'm going to show you how this background works since I did promise to get back to it. And trust me, this won't take long. So right now, you're looking at my original AE file. If I go into this pre-comp for my background, first, all I have is this background downloaded from Vecteezy, and it's this looping circular motion. And under it, we have this image. This is just a nice still image, but this looping motion is making it look like there is movement. Now, this is set to overlay, so the two layers actually mix. If I don't have this set on overlay and change it to normal, well, the difference is noticeable. So overlay and also reduce the opacity to 40% so it's not as strong and it's a little bit more subtle. Additionally, I was going for a purplish vibe, so I added a change to color effect and made the white purple. Then I pre-composed both layers. So if I just go back to the original comp here, you'll see that I have this set to overlay as well, so don't forget when you pre-compose them to set it to overlay. I also added a tint to make it more purple, and again, if I hide this, you can see it doesn't look how we want it, and you can clearly see the other image. Now, this is a little bit extra, but I created a solid, added a 4-color gradient to it, and reduced the opacity to give it some more darkness. And if I hide the layer, you can see the background is more visible, and I just found this extra shadow to be nice. And that's pretty much how this background for the first animation that you saw was made. Now in my Discord, I'll give you some free backgrounds that are already made and edited ready to go for you. I'll also include the original project files in case you want to edit them yourself. And that's pretty much everything for these effects. Now let's talk about something really important, which is overlays. The first one is film grain. This adds a subtle layer of texture that gives your video a more authentic high-end feel. I use this on the B-roll clip and also the last scene with the iPhone. It matches really well, especially if you're going to use the posterized time effect. Then we have the VHS and CTR overlay. This brings a retro game-like feel and is useful for giving any scene that old school vibe. I used it in the first animation since I was going for an arcade game style. You can see the difference when you add it. It takes no time to do, yet has huge impact. And then finally, I have the snow overlay, which is super easy to apply, like I just explained, and it's just those subtle particles you see drifting in the background. This simple touch adds a sense of depth and movement. It's a small detail, but it goes a long way in elevating the overall quality. To add any overlay, just place it in, change blending mode to screen, and usually you'll need to reduce the opacity. This way it's not distracting, but it is a nice element in the background. Now, let's talk about fonts. Choosing the wrong one can absolutely ruin a video and make it look cheap. But when you pick the right font for the right purpose, it elevates the entire edit. Sometimes it's the smallest details that make the biggest difference. Now here are the fonts I used for this video, each serving a specific purpose. Let's start with the first one, Inter. This one is very similar to the one used on X, which is why I picked it for the DM animation. It makes the text feel real and familiar, like an actual message. X actually uses a font called Chirp, but this one isn't free, so I just asked ChatGPT for help. Honestly, it's one of the easiest ways to find clean fonts. You can just tell ChatGPT the vibe you're going for, and it'll give you a list of options to choose from. I've left 3 prompts that you can use. It's a free Google Doc that you can get down below. Additionally, you can find any font by selecting the text, right-click and select Inspect. Then at the top right over here, click this button and hover over the text. You'll see the exact font displayed in the white box. And here's the thing, we want to find the right fonts because A, it's already in the viewer's memory, and B, it's not out of place. So with that being said, let me show you the other ones. GG Sans. This is Discord's font, so I used it for the Discord message animation. It has a clean and simple look that fits perfectly with Discord style. SF Pro Display. This is Apple's official system font. If you use a Mac or an iPhone, you've seen this everywhere. Menus, settings, and apps. That's why I used it for my MacBook related animation, to make it look exactly like the real thing. Helvetica. If you struggle to find a nice font for your captions, well, look no further. This is literally perfect. I used it on top of this B-roll clip in the intro. Additionally, it's another font used by Apple. Arcade Quest. This 8-bit font is perfect for any game-like animation. Without it, the scene wouldn't have been the same. Here's the same animation with the other fonts we just talked about. It literally throws away all your hard work. The right font made the animation feel believable. And finally, I used Belligerent Madness. In the second scene, where I show a screenshot of the animation, I was going for a hand-drawn effect. I wanted it to feel like there were arrows and notes written on the screenshot. The takeaway? Fonts are more than just text. They're part of the design. Pick the wrong one and you kill the animation, which is exactly why I created a free Google Doc with a list of fonts for every style you can think of. It's free in my Discord, so go grab it. Next is motion. The easiest way to make your edits professional is simply by having smooth graphs. In the intro, there is never a moment where there's nothing moving. It's not realistic. For example, in the first scene, we have a constant slow zoom in, followed by a glitch and zoom out transition to match the digital style of the first animation. Now here, even though we are not zooming in, we have a smooth screen shake, animated background, and then we zoom back in with impact, and as the impact happens, the other elements move as well. Then, a black background slides in smoothly. The camera zooms in and out without ever stopping once, and at the same time, we still have the smooth camera shake. So, throughout the entire edit, there's never a moment of complete stillness. There's always some level of motion or velocity keeping the scene alive. In my Discord, you'll find free presets for both Premiere Pro and After Effects, so you don't have to recreate these smooth graphs manually every single time. And finally, let's talk about sound. It's crucial to put effort into selecting the right music and sound effects for your videos. The right choices can elevate your video from a 5 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. On the flip side, even the best edited video can be dragged down by poor sound design, completely ruining its impact. Just watch the first 20 seconds of this Iman Gadzhi video.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to want to listen very, very closely to today's video, because in today's video, I'm going to show you the 17 money secrets to make your first million. These are the money secrets I used to make my first $100,000, my first $1 million, my first $10 million, and then tens of millions since then. This is not going to be your...
Now let's be honest here. The editing is very easy. A decent editor with basic knowledge in After Effects can make this type of animation. Then it's a sequence of close-up screenshots just going by really quickly. Despite all of this, despite it being so simple, it feels like a premium edit. It looks and feels professional, like something you would pay a lot for. Why? I mean, I think you already know the answer. During this part, you can hear a subtle reverb or echo effect on the clicking sounds.
Make my first $100,000,
And when he shows the website, there's a powerful cinematic hit that adds impact.
$10 million, and then tens of millions since then.
Every movement, everything that happens, a certain sound effect is placed to represent it. Pick the wrong music and the video changes completely. You are literally in control of what the viewer is feeling. You are in control of the viewer's emotions with the music that you choose. Remove the sound effects and instantly you'll know that something is missing. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme detail since I will be releasing a full sound design masterclass for free in the future on this channel. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that one. I'm dropping so much sauce. For now, here are the most common sound effects you'll need in every project. Whooshes for movement, risers to build anticipation, hits to add impact, this is good for revealing something, drones, which are great for adding atmosphere, tension, and depth to a scene, clicks, which are great for emphasizing actions like button presses and interactions, really good as well for UI animations and also transitions. Alright, I did say sound was the last thing I was going to cover, but before you click off this video, I have an important announcement. I'm actually looking for skilled video editors to join my team. So if you're one of them and want the chance to work with me, please join the Discord and send your portfolio in the jobs channel. This is also an opportunity for everyone to connect with each other. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and if it helped you, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It means a whole lot to me. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond. Thanks again.